And becoming aware of the body, peripherally, on the surface, and then also inside. Really consciously entering into the body with the mind. And then letting the body open up from the inside towards the outside, just like a flower blossoming open. So sink your awareness deep into the body. Let the body open and release from the inside out. Letting the mind and the breath nest in the bowl of the hips. It's a nice little basin to rest. So it's like a little nesting point. Mind and breath nest together and rest together. Each out breath is a releasing breath. So in each out breath, consciously releasing some level of tension. And see if you can notice each time you release tension, each time you exhale, can you notice a little bit of a release? Can you notice a little bit of an opening in a certain part of your body? So developing Ting, that inner awareness, that inner listening. Use your awareness to scan your skeletal structure and alignment, and that'll allow you to come into spontaneous correction or self-correction. You might notice curvature in the back of the neck. You need to correct. You might notice curvature in the lower back. What comes up for you as you send your awareness into the skeletal structure itself? What can be optimized? Again, repeatedly coming back to the abdomen and the breath in the abdomen. Tension accumulates continually, so coming back to release, release, re-release. Same with hanging the tailbone or hanging the hips. Got to keep coming back, rehang it, reset the shoulders. And let the arms hang completely with gravity. Let the spine hang really, really long. And we'll roll the shoulders and really noticing the spine. Feel the vertebrae undulate. And see, of course, when we're rolling the shoulders and sliding the shoulder blades, that's really going to approach, obviously, the spine right in that area, the shoulder blades, very directly. But see if you can get that kind of moving further away, down the spine, up the spine. So you may adjust the movement of your shoulder blades and shoulder. You may even move other parts of your body. I'd like you to kind of now address the other vertebrae or further and further along the spine with that same movement. Not just the vertebrae immediately in the neighborhood of that physical movement. So let's get that effect working throughout the entire spine eventually. Notice the abdomen, you might need to release some tension there. Hanging the hips will allow you to get further down that spine with this movement, up into the neck consciously as well. So one simple movement, just like the other day we did, the turning of hip joint, various ways, and have that actually work through and reverberate through the entire skeletal structure, addressing all the joints. One simple movement. Apply this to any movement. It's part of integrating the body. It's part of unifying the body. It's part of loosening the entire body globally as a whole. So that also means developing our awareness to encapsulate the entire body globally all at once. So how much of the spine can I gently address with this very simple movement. Of course, notice the massaging of the internal organs as well. As you do this, consciously hang out, release the abdomen. Okay, and hang even more to slowly subside into hanging stillness. Release the abdomen. Hands in front. Breathing in, expanding that space between the hands, and your entire body inflates a little bit. Breathe out, everything empties and sinks. So a little rising and sinking as well, using the legs. But again, notice any physical muscle tension. Try to release that. You only get more and more open. The joints open and release. The body itself becomes more porous and open. Breathing in is a filling, expanding, a lightening. Breathing out is settling, consolidating, becoming more substantial. Light, open, and porous, and becoming more settled, consolidated. So just a very simple shape here. And have the movement of the breath be what's moving the body. And of course, the movement of the breath is determined by your intention, your feeling. So the will, feeling the will of expansion, what triggers the expanding breath, and then that inflates the body. The will and the feeling of settling, consolidating, triggers the out breath, and the body follows that. So the body is completely motivated by the movement of the breath. So the movement of the breath is determined and motivated and initiated by the will, the feeling. So there's nothing that the body is doing on its own. The body is filled, in the best sense of the word, forced into this movement, compelled into this movement. So the body becomes a passive sail on a sailboat, or even a passive balloon. If the balloon fills, it rises. It doesn't try to rise. It passively rises as it fills, passively sinks a little bit as it empties. So the balloon isn't going, whoof, whoof, whoof. We don't want our body to be going, The body's passively being moved. The body is not doing it. Of course, that's the dynamic and the process we want in our actual Tai Chi movements and in the Tai Chi set, not just in a simple individual move that we're doing here and now. So it creates the quality, the feeling, get a sense of that feeling when I bring that approach, bring that technology into our Tai Chi moves and into the set. It's more challenging when we're doing brush knee or things where arms seem to be doing more, feet and arms are moving at the same time. Then that's where we tend to lose it, get muscular and mechanical. So it's the same feeling here where it's an organic, holistic movement. Integrated whole movement. That's actually what we want, even when arms and legs seem to be going in different directions. Filled with breath and intention, and release, consciously, intentionally releasing, emptying. Okay, now let's do another very simple movement we often do, circling the drum. And with these very relatively simple movements, we get to focus more on these principles, bring these principles more into the body, consciously entering into those principles. A very simple movement. So again, we can focus on using less and less muscle, less and less arms to do the movement. And so we have to find something else that makes the movement, not the muscles, not the physical exertion. Finding something else to drive the movement. And we bring the work of standing practice into this. For example, even as we do this movement here, hang the muscles. So it's like the muscles aren't doing it. Imagine and feel the muscles are hanging like soft rubber, just like we do in standing. Let the work of standing be in the skeletal alignment, just like in our standing practice. So not using our muscles to hold ourselves up, not using the muscles to move the arms, or doing it as minimally as possible at least. So again, a really good tactic, a really important training methodology is consciously using less and less and less muscle, in this case with each rotation. So that's a methodology we use a lot, very helpful, very powerful, and actively, consistently reducing the muscle effort, the muscle contraction, and then therefore consistently having something else take over and be motivated in movement. And that something else is the mind and the breath. Send your mind clearly the other direction and just watch the arms passively be swept in the other direction. So staying with that process, that takes a lot of concentration and mental stamina, and that's really the muscles that we build in internal arts, is the internal muscles. Awareness and intention, and developing more and more chi. So we have more and more stuff, more and more material that's moved by the mind and intention. Less and less in the body, less and less muscle work. And then notice that creates opportunity for something else to take over. Can you sit the shoulders more? Can you release the abdomen more? Can we release and hang the hips even more? Imagine that your muscles have been injected with Novocaine or something. So the muscles are numb. You've lost access to your muscles. They just hang off the bones. The bones themselves are very upright and vertical. But the muscles, they're either gone to sleep or you're given a shot of Novocaine, everything, all the muscles have just become soft and just hang. So having to go to a deeper source for the movement. The intention and the breath itself. Enjoy the lessening of the muscle work. Enjoy the less and less and less of the muscles. And the replacement of that with something else. And then the next time your hands roll up, we'll keep them up in front of the chest and expand once again laterally, but this time up here. And then approaching it in the same manner. Taking the muscle work out of it more and more and more. The body becomes softer and softer and softer. Muscles hang, but there's no ensuing collapsing of the physical structure whatsoever, because the physical structure is completely created by the skeletal alignment. Less and less and less muscle, more and more feeling motivated, feeling directed. Let the hands settle down in a rounded shape, the palms facing Danchin and Buddha belly, letting your body be very, very open, joints being open, the body itself open and light and porous. Let the muscles hang, but the skeleton again very sharply upright. Mind and breath resting deep in the abdomen. Just let that relaxed openness pervade and increase with each passing breath. Each out breath, even more release, more releasing of muscle tension, muscle work. With each breath, there's more openness in the body without trying to be open and big with the muscles. Just energetically, spatially, it's more open, more generous spatially, more generous, more open, more empty. And the more you let the weight settle underside, the more you release on the out breath, the less dense stuff there is. And the more open, light, empty stuff pervades. And very slowly let the hands drift down towards the floor, but there still is that round bubble or sphere quality, so they go down in a rounded shape until eventually they're trying to hang vertically with gravity, but you might find that your arms are kind of far away from the body. You still have that nice expansive quality. It's called pung, expansive, open, outward flow, radiating outward energy as the weight settles. And gently shift the weight side to side, gently rock out. Okay. So we had a really good question about specific physical shape in the moves and mechanically shape. So let me kind of address that generally, kind of like we did at the very beginning before we started. And then definitely want to get to the specific moves that you have in mind. So overall, the first answer would be, is there a variation in where the hands can be and the actual shape? How much wiggle room is there? How much creative license is there? So the first answer and the general answer is it's very specific and it's very precise. There are variables though, and many of the moves you can have a couple different places or more where the hand or hands could be, as long as you're clearly in one or the other, that you're not somewhere in between. And so it's not blurry or unclear in your intention and in your feeling. Your feeling, your intention is very clear. And therefore your body is very specifically somewhere and not somewhere else. So it's very specific, very precise in terms of where the hands are and the trajectory that they go through. But there can be a chosen difference of where that trajectory is or where that quote unquote end position or that form lands, even though there's no end positions. So the point where it goes through, it's very, very, very specific. Now, if you change the Marshall application, then you could, that's what can vary the actual trajectory and the actual shape. And if there are specific energetic Qigong purposes for what you're doing as well, that determines the shape and the trajectory. So there's never, oh, it's just kind of here, kind of there. It's generally speaking much more definite, specific and precise than that. The differences and the variations in the shape also are determined by the style of the Tai Chi. And even within the same style, different schools within the same style can be quite different from each other, because nowadays, Tai Chi being several hundred years old, even within the same style, there's been so many teachers and so many students that things have passed down to who became teachers, that there's just so many variations and variables. But generally speaking, all Tai Chi has the same principles, generally speaking. It can also get very confusing, though, that terminology and what we mean by certain terminology can vary from place to place. A quick example of that is Dantian. Generally, we all know it's here, generally speaking, but exactly where it is vertically and exactly where it is horizontally can vary from school to school, art to art, and can vary depending on the purpose of what you're doing. Is it martially? Is it healing wise? Is it energy building? So even within the same school, it can vary depending on what your activity actually is, what the purpose is. So that's another example that things can vary. So definition and position of what something is, like the Dantian, that definitely differs from school to school and style to style. So certainly positioning varies quite a bit. So a very, very simple example is parry and punch. Generally speaking, we have this shape for parry and punch, which is just like brush knee. But many styles, including many Yang style schools, have this shape. Instead of here, it's here. It's the same general function and purpose, where it's parry and punch, or block and punch. So if a punch is coming towards me, I can parry the strike. And this is another shape of that, where this would be actually, in actual application, if a strike's coming in, I'm parrying it to strike it. But in the form, it's here. But this is, you'll see this it's very common, is to have here, have this here. Just for our purposes, I'll mention that brush knee, often what you'll see in brush knee is this hand comes back here, pointing towards the elbow. So that's a very common movement and form of brush knee. And another day we'll work on that variation of it, but this is a very common one where this hand comes back, basically fingertips pointing towards the elbow. Where generally we do simply this way. Hand goes out. So I'll show you from the side. So in many places, brush knee has this shape. What we generally do is out here. So there's another variation. Now, here's an example where generally things are the same in Tai Chi, and principles, generally speaking, are the same. Elbows are pointing towards the ground. That's in every Tai Chi style. So I would never do brush knee like this or any movement like this. Repulse monkeys would never have the shoulders up, elbows flared out. So shoulders down, elbows pointing towards the ground. That's a really good, simple example where things are universal throughout all other styles and schools. But brush knee is a good example of some other variations. So this bottom hand here, whether I'm doing this way or this way, depending on the school, this can be rotated somewhat or pointing straight forward. So that's a variability depending on the school, style in the school. Also, this hand coming through for brush knee can come through here, or the fingertips can lead. So there's a relaxation in the wrist and the fingertips lead. And then it's called sitting wrists at the end. And yet another variation is a little bit in between, where it's not flat, or the one I just did, fingertips lead, and then the wrist sits. But there's another version where that backhand is angled slightly, has a slight soft bend. It's not this way. here, and there's a slight angle to the hand. So an example, there's lots of subtle differences and variations depending on the school and the style. Another one I'll mention, because you'll see this quite often, are hit tiger at right, hit tiger at left, and also strike yours with fists. Often what you'll see is this shape of the hand and wrist, hitting with these knuckles, where often we have this shape, we're hitting with this flat of the fist. It's a reverse hammer fist. This is a regular hammer fist. This is a reverse hammer fist. So we typically have this, but what you'll often see is this. Same with strikers with fists. We have this. What you often see is this. Striking.
Your elbows go up on that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Same with the hit tiger.
Yeah.
It's out. So then you have to take particular care that you don't hike the shoulders up and kind of dislocate, in a very minor way, of course, the shoulder joints. So we have to watch out for being weight upper side. So even in a shape like this, we still want weight underside. So it's a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Now, can you tell me what you had in mind specifically for in positions in a mover?
Well, like in four corners, when I do the block, I like to put my hand with this forward. Right?
The blade?
The blade, yeah. Because it seems more martially strong to me for this pose. But then in Grassbird's tail.
Okay, Roberta, before you move on, let me just have a closer look at that. Can you just show me again?
Yeah, I can come forward. Yeah. So we're like this. Right? So this one's up here and that one's there.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. And then in like Grassbird's tail, or what I think of as sort of softer moves, maybe it's not that, but my fingers are pointing forward. And also in
can you show me how?
And brush knee, I put my hand like this rather than like that. So flat.
Okay.
Instead of like that. So there's two variations in there. Yeah. Should they all be the same, or am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Okay. So, yeah.
Sorry, Luann, making this complicated.
Oh, that's actually a really good one to talk about, the hand position, because that's something where within our school, we can have some differences. Like, so there's a number of moves that for us, we can have this or that.
Okay.
Where other moves would be like, for example, generally speaking, we do it this way, not this way.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm not really saying for us in our school, you have a choice here or here. We do it this way. But hand position, we do have choice or choices. So whether it's brush knee or whether it's four corners, same answer. It can either be palm facing straight forward. So then in that case, martially, it's a palm heel. It's the heel of the palm. Or angled, I'll come a little closer, angled slightly. So that becomes sort of the edge,
right,
bottom corner. Now, what I would say is you're a little bit too much straight on like that. So
okay.
Straight on like that, but angled a bit more.
So my thumb out.
Like
there, like that. Okay.
It's almost like you're
pointing like this with my thumb almost pointing back at myself.
Yeah, it's like you're taking.
So the thumb needs to be more.
Actually, I think that's a really good way to approach it. You're taking a drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Watch if I continue with this movement. Watch.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That actually is one application of it.
Okay, so you're getting, okay.
So either flat and the surface is not the palm, because that's not structurally very strong, you'll hurt the wrist. It's the heel of the palm. So
right.
Flat or angled slightly. That would be angled too much.
Yeah.
Angled slightly.
Okay.
So brush knee here or here.
Mm-hmm.
4 corners, here or angled slightly.
Mm-hmm.
Single whip, flat with the heel of the palm, or that slight angle. There's that shape again.
Okay. So now I've seen some people just doing flat hand, like pointy fingers.
Oh, okay. That comes up when we do our version of brush knees.
Okay.
So let me do now, if they're doing it any other place, that may not be correct. So it depends where they're doing it. But for brush knee, my hand goes from flat to sitting wrists.
Oh,
To sitting wrists. Now, when the wrist sits, again, it can either be flat for the palm heel, or I sit the wrist at a slight angle. So it's the edge of the hand, bottom edge, not up here, but the bottom edge.
okay.
So let me do a couple sideways. When I'm in brush knee ready position, that forward hand is flat.
Okay. Okay.
And to come forward. Okay, now watch this forward hand now. It's sitting wrist, right? For either palm heel or edge of the hand strike. Okay, now watch, it's going to go from vertical to flat.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Bring the hand through, fingers pointing straight up. And watch what happens when I rock back. Martially, that's a finger jab.
Right. In the eyes or the throat, right? Yeah. Yeah.
So that hand, fingers are vertical, rocking back. So here's another, and this is where you get a nice feel for it. Here the weight is forward largely, right? 60 or 70% forward. When I rock back and open that foot, a little bit of a weight shift back, right? Think of keeping that hand there. And so the fingertips keep your hand there. Rather than my hand coming back with me,
Right. Right.
my fingertips stay there. My fingertips stay there, so they have to go flat to stay there. So that's something nice to work on. So my fingertips are going to stay there. So my hand has to lengthen by flattening to keep it in the same place.
Yeah.
To keep it viable, to keep them away or a potential attack rather than coming back.
Okay.
So here, you can, when I rock back, you can kind of see that my hand kind of stays there. My fingertips stay there by elongating my hand. So this is a very good thing.